He had a countdown until I turned 18. Then said I reminded him of his ex. I made sure everyone knew what he really was. Imagine a guy waiting for you to turn 18 literally, counting down the days just to ghost you before your birthday. Now imagine that same guy talking disgustingly about you behind your back, calling you names and fantasizing in ways no decent person ever would. That's what happened to me. But instead of crying in silence, I made sure everyone saw his true colors. He thought he could treat me like a secret, until I exposed him to the world. This is the story of how I got revenge on a predator disguised as a player. College in the UK isn't like university, it's that weird in-between space, kind of like school but not quite, where students aged anywhere from 16 to 19 are all mashed together in one building. For most of us, it's just a stepping stone, finish our levels, get into uni, maybe figure out who we are along the way. I had just turned 17 when I started college, full of excitement, nerves, and zero clue how dramatic things were about to get. That's when I met George. He was 20 older, confident, a bit of a smooth talker. The kind of guy who somehow always had people around him, always knew the latest gossip, and carried himself like he was above it all. At first, I thought he was just friendly, a chill upperclassman who happened to think I was funny. But then he started flirting. Little things at first, compliments on my outfits, sliding into my DMs late at night, finding excuses to sit near me at lunch. At 17, I was flattered. He seemed mature, worldly even, compared to the boys in my year who still thought making fart noises in class was peak humor. George, he asked me about my favorite music, offered to walk me to the bus stop, said things like, "You're wise beyond your years." That line hits differently when you realize it as just a polished-up version of, "You re-young," and I like that. But here's where it gets twisted. George had a literal countdown on his phone. A countdown to my 18th birthday. I didn't know about it at first. It came up in conversation one day, half jokingly, like it was no big deal. I remember laughing it off, playing it cool, trying not to think about how weird it actually was.
He said, "Just a couple more weeks, and it won't be illegal to flirt with you properly." I cringed. He laughed.
I ignored the red flag waving in my face. Because here's the truth. When you have feelings for someone, especially when you're young and figuring things out, it's easy to blur the lines between affection and manipulation. I thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe he really liked me and just didn't know how to express it. Besides, it's not like he did anything physical, we were just talking, right? But now, looking back, I see the patterns. George never wanted to hang out in public. He always waited until late to message me. He'd disappear for days, then come back with some dramatic excuse. Once he told me, "You're not like other girls your age." You get it. Another classic predator line that sounds like praise until you realize it is just a way to isolate you. The closer it got to my birthday, the weirder he got. He started making comments like, "You better not change once you turn 18. Or, "I've been patient this long. Hope it's worth it." At the time, I brushed it off as teasing. I didn't want to believe someone I liked, someone I trusted, could be that calculated. I remember feeling butterflies in my stomach every time he messaged me, but also this pit of anxiety I couldn't explain. It was like walking a tightrope. If I said the wrong thing, would he lose interest? If I didn't act mature enough, would he think I was just another kid? I was trying so hard to be what he wanted. I didn't stop to think about what I actually wanted, or deserved. He made me feel special, but only on his terms, only when it suited him. And worst of all, I mistook that control for care. The countdown kept ticking, and I kept holding on, thinking that once I turned 18, everything would fall into place. I had no idea that just 2 days before my birthday, George would vanish, no warning, no explanation. Just gone, but I'm getting ahead of myself. That part comes next. For now, all I knew was that I was 17, falling for a guy who was 3 years older, and convinced that age was just a number. Turns out, it wasn't the number that mattered. It was the motive behind the math. 2 days before my 18th birthday, I got a message from George that hit like a slap in the face. No build-up, no slow fade, just straight up. "I don't think we should talk anymore. You remind me too much of my ex." That was it. No explanation, no apology, nothing. At first, I just stared at my phone. I actually thought it was a joke. After all that build-up, his messages, his attention, the countdown like it was some kind of twisted prize, and now he was just done. I kept rereading the message, trying to make it make sense. Was it something I said? Something I did? I didn't know whether to be angry or just humiliated. The worst part? I'd spent weeks imagining how things would be once I finally turned 18. I pictured us finally going on a real date, holding hands in public, not having to keep things low-key. But instead of that, I got dumped by a guy who'd basically been circling my birthday on his calendar like it was a launch date. And then aborted mission at the last second, saying I reminded him of his ex. That excuse was so weak it was insulting. Like, really? That's the best he could come up with. I was furious, not just at him but at myself. I'd ignored all the red flags, all the weird comments, all the gut feelings that told me something wasn't right. And now here I was, 2 days from becoming legal, and he couldn't even stick around long enough to face me like an adult. But instead of wallowing, I did what a lot of girls do. I talked to my friends. I told a few close mates what happened, hoping they'd reassure me, maybe even validate how messed up it all was. Some of them did. Mia, especially, was fuming. She said he was a creep, that I dodged a bullet, that his behavior screamed Nancy. But not everyone saw it that way. Word started spreading around college, and not everyone was sympathetic. Some people said I was being dramatic. Others accused me of gossiping. I'd walk past people in the corridors and feel eyes on me, some giving me supportive smiles, others rolling their eyes like I was starting drama for attention. I couldn't win. And the sickest part? I still said hi to George when I saw him. Still smiled, still tried to be polite. I thought maybe if I stayed civil, people would stop acting like I was the villain in all this. Because that's how it works sometimes. When a girl speaks up, people get uncomfortable. It's easier to label her as the gossip than admit that maybe, just maybe, the older guy everyone thought was so cool was actually kind of a predator. I wasn't trying to start some huge scandal. I was just trying to process what had happened. But once the story got out, it took on a life of its own. People whispered in the common areas. Some of George's friends unfollowed me on socials. One girl even told me I was ruining his reputation. Yeah, well, he ruined my peace of mind. He made me feel like a toy he was waiting to unwrap, and when the moment finally came, he tossed me aside like I wasn't even worth it. And for what? Because I reminded him of someone. Please, still, I kept my head up. I went to classes, kept showing up, kept pretending I was fine. But the truth was, I felt betrayed not just by George, but by the people who chose to turn a blind eye. Who acted like his behavior was normal and mine was the issue. It was a hard lesson, but one I won't forget. Sometimes when you stand up for yourself, people won't clap. They'll criticize, and that's okay. Because real friends like Mia don't flinch when the truth gets messy. What I didn't know then was that the real chaos hadn't even started yet. George wasn't just done with me. He was about to show just how little respect he actually had. And when I found out what he said behind my back, everything changed. It was a cold, overcast afternoon, the kind where the sky looks like it's been stuck in grayscale for hours. Mia and I were in town, grabbing a snack, and doing what we always did, chatting, people watching, and dissecting the chaos of college life. I was still trying to move past what had happened with George, trying to brush it off like it didn't hurt as much as it actually did. We were sitting on a bench near the bus stop when Mia suddenly went quiet. She looked at her phone, eyebrows furrowed, and then turned to me with a look I'll never forget. I wasn't going to show you this, she said, but you need to hear it. I didn't even know what to expect. Maybe a message she'd sent to someone else, something petty or passive-aggressive. But what she played, it wasn't petty, it wasn't even just mean. It was disturbing. It was George's voice, unmistakable, cocky, arrogant, and the things he said in that voice note made my stomach drop. He was in some group chat with a bunch of his mates, talking about me like I was nothing more than a punchline in a sick joke.
He said, she needs to be pinned against a wall and slapped with a D***K.
Followed by laughter like that was just regular banter, just locker room talk, just boys being boys. He called me a brat. Immature, said I was obsessed with him and didn't know how to act my age. He made fun of my voice, my clothes, the way I walked. Every word dripped with this disgusting mix of sexual aggression and childish cruelty. I felt physically sick. I remember staring at Mia in complete disbelief, my brain struggling to connect the George I knew, the one who flirted with me, complimented me, said he liked how real I was, with this version, this monster mocking me behind my back. The worst part?
He sounded so proud of himself. There was no regret in his voice, no hesitation.
Just ego and entitlement, like he had the right to say those things, like I was some object he could describe however he wanted. And the guys in the chat? They laughed, they hyped him up. Not one of them stopped him. I felt humiliated. I felt betrayed. And most of all, I felt disgusted. This wasn't some guy I'd had a one-off conversation with. This was someone who made me feel special, who knew I was younger and still chose to pursue me, who waited until the timing was technically acceptable, only to treat me like dirt the second it suited him. And now he was out here bragging, as if reducing me to a sexual fantasy and a joke was something to be proud of. Mia was furious. I don't even know how he thought this was okay, she said. It's not just mean, it's predatory. And she was right, it was predatory. Everything about it, the countdown, the control, the fake affection was leading up to this. George didn't just want me to like him. He wanted power. He wanted to be the guy who could toy with a younger girl, get away with it, and laugh about it afterward. That's when I decided he wasn't going to get away with it. I couldn't keep it to myself. I knew other people needed to hear what he said, not just for my own peace of mind, but because this wasn't just about me anymore. What if he was doing this to other girls? What if no one else had proof? What if I was the only one who could actually show people who he really was? So I started showing people, friends in my class, girls in my year, even a couple of his mates who weren't in that group chat. Their reactions were immediate shock, disgust, pure rage. I can't believe he said that about you. WTF is wrong with him? Yo, that's actually not normal. That's messed up. One by one, people started pulling away from George. Unfollowing him, ignoring him. Avoiding eye contact in the halls, he noticed quickly. He started asking around, why is everyone acting weird? And eventually he confronted Mia. She didn't lie. She told him straight up, we heard what you said. People know. At first he tried to deny it. I never said that. That voice note's out of context. But then Mia sent him the clip. And suddenly the cocky guy who laughed in the voice note was gone. George started freaking out, crying, full meltdown mode. Not because he felt bad about what he said, but because he got caught. Because the people who used to hype him up were now walking away. Because the image he built of himself, the charming, popular older guy, was crumbling right in front of him. I should have felt sorry for him, but I didn't. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This was who he really was. And now everyone knew it. Once I heard that voice note, something inside me snapped. The shock burned off quickly, and what was left was rage, a kind I'd never felt before. It wasn't just anger at what he said. It was everything, the manipulation, the timing, the fake charm. The way he made me feel like I was the problem when he was the one plotting from day one. That voice note wasn't just vile, it was proof. And I wasn't about to let it go to waste. So I started sharing it, quietly at first. A few classmates I trusted, girls who had always been good to me. Their reactions were exactly what I needed to hear: wide eyes, hands over mouths, that look of genuine horror. Are you kidding me? He said that about you. That's disgusting. Word spread like wildfire. Within 2 days, most of my class had heard it. People who used to laugh at George's jokes were now giving him the cold shoulder. You could see it on his face. He felt it. But you could tell he was confused, paranoid even. He kept scanning faces, whispering with the few friends he had left. And then came the questions. The looks, the silence, the way people stopped sitting next to him during break. His group chats were drying up, and the halls got a lot quieter when he walked past. His voice shook. He went straight to denial mode. He started spiraling. At first he played dumb, kept acting normal, pretending nothing had changed. Why is everyone acting weird around me? Did someone say something about me? Mad at me, even though I hadn't said a word directly to him. He started messaging her, demanding to know who she told, blaming her for ruining his life. I don't even know who it was, but bless them. When it reached the safeguarding officer, things moved fast. And I can't even describe the relief I felt. Even when people believed me, even when his reputation started crumbling, he was still there lurking, pacing the halls, throwing side eyes. And then he wasn't, just gone, like a ghost. They called in Mia, then me, then a couple of the students who had heard the voice note. Others just said, "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." It didn't erase what he did, but it helped. One day he was pacing the corridors, trying to make eye contact with anyone who didn't completely hate him yet, and the next, he was just gone. His name was quietly removed from the group projects. Even the teachers stopped mentioning him. It was like the college wanted to pretend he never existed. No formal expulsion notice, no awkward apology tour, no half-hearted explanation, just vanished. And it reminded me that exposing the truth might make you unpopular for a minute, but in the long run, it's the most powerful thing you can do. His followers still saw him as that charming guy, the gamer with a sense of humor, the cool, older guy. No one wanted to be the friend who stood by a creep. And I had no intention of letting him hide behind that mask any longer. There was no more tension walking through the halls, no second guessing whether I'd run into him around a corner. Others offered quiet support with a nod or a shared glance. You could tell that the weight of what he'd done had finally landed. But powerful in the way survivors feel when they take their story back, when they stop letting someone else's actions haunt them. He was just not there, and that absence. It was louder than any confrontation could have been. He was off the radar, but his social media presence was untouched. His followers still saw the curated version of him, the one that played Fortnite, posted gym selfies, cracked edgy jokes in his captions, pretend like nothing happened. And the thought of him doing it again to someone else lit a new fire in me. They didn't know the real George. I picked a random girl's name, threw together a profile pic using a stock photo, made the bio something vague like 19, uni life, memes and chaos. Then I got to work. We explained everything his behavior before my birthday, the countdown, the way he treated me, and the exact words in that voice note. Dozens of them. At first, I wasn't sure if anyone would accept, but to my surprise, people did. Just the audio clip, the same one where George talked about pinning me to a wall and slapping me with his D***K, where he mocked me, called me immature, said I was obsessed with him. His voice, his words unfiltered. Another replied in the chat, "No way this is George. Please tell me this is AI or something." I didn't have to say a word. Others jumped in to confirm it, especially the ones who had distanced themselves from him after the fallout. Curiosity works fast when drama is in the air. Even with George gone from college, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. Word spread like wildfire, faster than it ever had inside the walls of college. Screenshots were flying around. Girls who had followed him unfollowed immediately. One even posted a vague story, just text on a black background that said, "Some of why all don't he know how to shut up when you should be in jail?" He might have vanished from our physical world, but his online persona was untouched. Not just over the situation, but over the narrative. I wasn't just the girl who got ditched before her 18th birthday. I wasn't just the immature brat George tried to humiliate. I was the one who flipped the script. But because I stood up for myself, some people expected me to stay silent, to just be grateful it didn't get worse. No more attention. No more thirst comments, just silence. A dead feed. And a name people now associated with creepy, Nancy behavior. No, that voice note was the worst. And I wasn't going to let it slide just because he cried when he got caught. On Instagram, he was still that guy, funny, popular, a bit cheeky, always posting thirst traps and gaming clips with cocky captions. I could see his account reacting in real time.
He went private, then public again, then private.
His followers started dropping by the dozens. His latest post, a selfie with the caption "Monday Mood," was flooded with comments like, "Still feeling smug." But sometimes, when the system fails to protect you and people don't want to hear your side, you have to make your voice impossible to ignore. And mood changed real quick, huh? George had been older, more experienced and calculated. That's textbook manipulation. That's how predators protect themselves. They twist your story before you even get a chance to tell it. He knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew how to play the role of the cool, caring guy just long enough to get what he wanted. Especially when they come wrapped in ego and entitlement. After everything that happened, after the voice note, the fallout, the exposure, I expected to feel nothing but relief. Not just for him, but for me. Some said they'd dealt with similar things. Older guys who flirted a little too hard. Made them feel special, then ditched them the moment things got real. Others admitted they felt something was off about George, but didn't he know how to explain it. Other days I felt exhausted, like I'd just survived a tornado, and was still figuring out where the pieces landed. But the more I talked about it, the more I processed what really happened, the lighter that weight became. That it's okay to speak up even when your voice shakes. That's what they say when they're afraid of accountability. That being labeled a gossip for telling the truth is better than staying quiet and letting someone else write your story. And in doing that, I got my voice back and helped others find theirs too. Some guys think they can get away with predatory behavior just because they hide behind a screen or smile in public. But actions speak louder than words, and when those actions cross the line, you have every right to speak up. I didn't just walk away, I made sure the truth was louder than the lies. If you've ever been made to feel small or silenced, remember this: you hold the power to flip the script. Like, subscribe and stay tuned for more stories where karma comes served ice cold. And trust me, the moment you speak your truth, you start to take your power back. It doesn't instantly erase the anxiety, the hurt, the doubt. And I carried that with me long after George disappeared from my day-to-day life. We're told to be flattered when older guys pay attention to us. We're told not to ruin someone's life over a mistake. But it's not a mistake, it's a pattern, and silence is what lets it thrive. And in some ways I did. George was gone. His fake persona had been dismantled. I had taken control of a story that once made me feel powerless. But what I didn't expect was how long the emotional damage would linger. He still had followers, still got likes, still acted like nothing had happened. I reminded myself that being young, trusting, and kind isn't a flaw. It's not an invitation for abuse. It's a strength. And people who try to exploit that don't deserve your silence. They deserve consequences, deleting comments, disabling replies, classic panic mode. It wasn't a dramatic public confrontation or even a punishment letter. It was the truth. Your story matters, and you have every right to stand up and be heard. Not the words themselves, but the tone, the casual cruelty in his voice, the way he laughed while king about me like I wasn't a real person. It made me question my own worth, made me wonder if other people saw me that way too. If I really had come off as immature, as dramatic as a joke. Raw, unfiltered, with his voice clear as day. And honestly, that anonymity gave me the space to act without being targeted, without people questioning my motives or calling it drama. And yeah, Mia played a huge part too. Sometimes it comes from taking control of the narrative, from refusing to let someone else's lies define you, from speaking out even when your voice shakes. Her loyalty gave me the courage to keep going when it felt like half the college just wanted me to shut up. There was an immediate investigation. George was pulled into meetings and then he was gone. Just like that. No warning, no formal goodbye, no drama. One day he was in the cafeteria sulking behind his laptop, and the next his seat was empty. It was like he vanished. There was no spinning it. No, editing could excuse what he said. That's when the meltdown started. Mia was the one who finally told him. She didn't sugarcoat it. I showed her the voice note. People have heard it, they know. I wasn't there when it happened, but the aftermath was glorious. According to Mia, his face turned white. What? That's not even me. It's out of context. Someone edited it to make me sound bad. But Mia wasn't having it. She sent him the original audio. He broke down, crying actual tears. Locked himself in one of the study rooms and didn't come out for nearly an hour. People were walking past, whispering, some of them laughing. And yeah, I know it sounds harsh, but part of me did laugh. This was the same guy who thought it was hilarious to sexually degrade me in front of his mates. And now he was sobbing because the truth had finally caught up with him. Poetic. Then came the anger. He wasn't mad at himself. Of course not. He was mad at the person who leaked it. Mad at Mia. But here's the thing, he ruined it himself. We just held up a mirror. Once the fallout really hit, college got involved. Someone had already reported what was said to safeguarding. Safeguarding took it seriously. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone knew he was either expelled or forced to withdraw. Either way, he was out. Because for weeks I'd been walking around with this heavy, invisible weight. People started coming up to me, some of them apologizing for doubting me at first. Still, as satisfying as it was to watch George fall, I wasn't done. Because while he was gone from college, his socials were still active. That's when the idea of the fake Instagram account came to life. After everything blew up, George disappeared almost overnight. His stuff was cleared out of the shared study spaces. And honestly, I didn't blame them. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. People noticed. Friends, classmates, even some who had doubted me before, everyone was suddenly more vocal. Some came up to me, checking in. The guy who once strutted around like he owned the place had been exposed, and now no one wanted to be associated with him. But here's what stuck with me. It wasn't he some grand disciplinary board or official authority that brought him down. Raw, unfiltered, undeniable truth. It was me choosing not to stay quiet. Choosing to show people who he really was. Choosing to believe that I deserved better than silence. Because here's the thing about justice, it doesn't always come wrapped in rules and consequences. George lost everything he built on ego and manipulation, not because someone else decided his fate, but because he showed his true self and I made sure people saw it. It felt powerful. Not in a petty revenge-is-sweet kind of way. Still, even with him gone, something lingered. And deep down that didn't sit right with me. Because predators don't always get exposed in broad daylight. Sometimes they just relocate, rebrand. I wasn't done. Not yet. That's when I decided to hit him where it really hurt his reputation. That's when I knew what I had to do. One night, lying in bed, I created a new Instagram account. I started adding people, his followers mostly. The guys from his friend group, girls he used to flirt with, mutuals from college. After a few days of building the account and gaining just enough credibility, I created a group chat. I called it Just So You Know. And then I dropped the bomb. I posted the voice note. No caption, no commentary. The reaction was instant. People started leaving reactions on the message. One girl messaged privately, "Is this real? Nah, I heard this weeks ago. It's him. I went to college with them. This is legit." That's the same voice he used in our old GC. Same tone, same dumb jokes. It's 100% him. More people joined the chat. Brutal and beautiful. The best part? He started blocking people. And me? I sat back, phone in hand, and watched it all unravel. For the first time since this entire mess began, I felt in control. What made it even sweeter was that I never had to reveal who I was. He had no idea the account was me. And let's be real, if the genders were reversed, no one would even blink. George's image was shattered. His brand, whatever clout he'd built online, was done. I didn't just get even, I got justice. And look, I'm not saying revenge is always the answer. That fake Instagram account? That was my microphone. And through it, I reminded George and everyone like him that actions have consequences. Because even when justice is served, even when people finally believe you doesn't undo what you went through. There were days I couldn't stop replaying the voice note in my head. That's what grooming does. It doesn't just hurt you in the moment. It gets inside your head and makes you doubt your reality. And when I stood up for myself, he flipped it, made me the crazy one, the bitter ex, the immature girl who couldn't take a joke. But what I've learned is this: the truth doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It just needs to be seen. And once people heard what he really said, everything changed. I realized I wasn't alone. So many girls reached out after I exposed him. It made me realize how common this kind of behavior is, and how often it goes unspoken. Healing wasn't linear for me. Some days I felt strong, like a warrior. I started rebuilding my confidence. I stopped blaming myself. Looking back, I wish someone had told me earlier that it's okay to be angry. So if you're reading this and you've been through something similar, if someone older made you feel small, confused, or ashamed, please know this. Your feelings are valid. Tell someone. Show the messages. Expose the truth. Don't worry about being called dramatic or too much. You are not the problem. The person who manipulates, humiliates, and gaslights you, that's the problem. I didn't set out to be some kind of hero. I just refused to stay silent.